All right, double header night here in our state in the SEC, the basketball show. That's Taylor Corn. I'm Jim Dunaway. Post game Auburn and LSU. Auburn wins it 87-74. We'll talk about what Lenardi is saying about this team, about Janai's play. We had a JP Pegues sighting tonight. Points off turnovers. Just give me your initial thought on Auburn and what was a frantic start to the game for like the first 3 minutes, and then Auburn settled in, and it felt like it was a 9, 10, 11, 12-point game most of the night.
Very frantic start. The first possession, I think Auburn had six offensive rebounds on the first possession of the
Yes.
game.
Yes.
But it seemed to me like one of the slow starts that we saw a lot earlier in the season, where it took them a second to get rolling. Again, not a great shooting night, and I feel like this has become kind of a theme over the past few weeks. They didn't shoot great, but they still walked away with a win. Winning road games in the SEC is not easy. And I mean, I don't really know that you can complain about much because they won the game, but there's a lot that they could clean up. My biggest takeaway from the first half though was that they had 15 turnovers, 11 of those were steals by six different players, and that helped a lot when the shots weren't falling.
That's right. They got up a lot of shots. It's an amazing stat. Auburn shot 80 shots, and LSU only shot 51 shots in the game. I mean, you shot the ball, if you're Auburn, 29 more times. Is that the right math? Yeah, 29 more times than LSU did. That's just putting up a lot of shots, and you do that with getting rebounds and working hard on the glass. And Auburn did that. Couple of moments in the game I want to go to, and then we'll talk big pictures. Both in the second half. 12:40 to go in the game, and LSU has cut it to 5. And then your man steps up and hits a big three and sort of widens the gap again, as the man you like to call prime time hit a big three there. That was an interesting moment at 12:40 when they had cut it to 5, and then Pettiford stepped up.
Yeah, he shows that the lights are never too bright for Tahaad. He's fearless. That's, what they were referring to him as on the broadcast is he's a fearless freshman, which you don't, those are hard to come by because a lot of times you'll see those younger guys kind of crumble when they're under pressure, and that doesn't seem to happen often for Tahaad. He scored in double figures. I know that this wasn't a ranked matchup. LSU is not ranked currently, but he scored in double figures in all of Auburn's ranked opponent against all of Auburn's ranked opponents. And I mean, this is an SEC game, so that's just another accolade to add to his accomplishments this season.
Yeah, that was his only three, though. He's 1 of 5 from three, 4 of 12 in the game. So he's one of those guys that hits a big shot, but he didn't hit a lot of them tonight. He does end up with 10. And then another big moment, they cut it to 6 with 7:25 to play in the game. And then Janai Broom muscles his way for an old school 3-point play. And that was sort of the last time I was worried about an upset at that point. From 7:25 on, Auburn, I thought, put the medal down. But you go to your big man, Janai Broom, who I don't think Taylor obviously is not 100% still, but he gutted it out and had another double-double night very early in this contest. He got the double-double.
Yeah, I don't think that he's 100% either. He did look to me like he was playing a little more physical than he did in his initial return on Saturday, but he's definitely not 100%. I think early in the game he was missing, some of those layups that he would typically make. But again, he had 26 points, he had 16 rebounds. So if that seems like a little bit of an off night for him, then okay. And I keep going back to this, but you you watch the game not looking at the score, and it just doesn't seem like they're playing great at times. But I mean, they've been gutting out these wins over the past couple games when they haven't you know, looked like the best that they played this season or close to it.
26 points, 16 rebounds from Janai Broom tonight, and he's not 100%. And I think that's hurting him a little bit around the rim, close to the rim there. Just not the normal, I think, power step that he's getting. I know he's not always using the bad ankle, but there's just a little rhythm off. It's leaving a ball a tad short. on some of these, or maybe he's just not getting the same bounce. Usually a lot more consistent on putting the ball in the bucket. He ended up missing. He was 10 of 23 from the field, so he put up a lot of shots. Still a gutsy big night from Janai Broom. Some of your comments here as we'll roll through this, and we'll be live after the Alabama game as well. Some of you may be catching this on replay. NH3425. That game was absolutely drunk. War Damn Eagle. Auburn would get 6 offensive rebounds, only to throw it out of bounds. Team has so much grit and athleticism, though. That's the one thing takeaway I get, other than agreeing with Jay Kirk that Taylor Corn is a gem. You are an absolute gem, but that's the thing I get, Taylor, is that it's not always pretty, especially on the road, but they just come at you in waves. Okay. Janai's having a moment that it's not off to a great start. Here comes Chaney Johnson for a little bit. Or here comes Hudson all of a sudden, who comes in and he hits a couple of shots and
Yeah,
has
he
a
hits
good
a
run. Yeah.
3-point shot. I was like, what in the
Yeah.
world is going on?
Yeah. So there's just a wave that keeps coming at you, and I like that about this Auburn team. Auburn is missing those clutch shots from Chad Baker-Mazara. They're used to getting that turn 8-point games into 14-point games. I thought Chad Baker-Mazara, doing like Chad Baker-Mazara likes to do, finds himself in the middle of he finds himself. I'll say it. He finds himself in the middle of a review all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, no, there's not an individual that the referees go over to review either an action by him or an action on him more in basketball than Chad Baker-Mazara. And he absolutely got, forearmed, elbowed, whatever you want to call it, to the stomach. And he just gets under people's skin. And I thought that was where the frantic start for LSU ended. And that's when Auburn, I think, went on a 15-2 run. So hats off Chad Baker-Mazara for doing Chad Baker-Mazara things to sort of end the upset possibility. And by the way, the announcers early in this game, do you think they were like, man, I want this to be a really interesting game? They were calling from the get-go, number one Auburn is on man, the target's on their back. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, it is 6-4. You can tap down the targets on their back. It is 6-4 right now.
Yeah, for the first time in 25 years, the LSU Tigers have a chance to upset the number 1 team in the country, and they've been playing for 75 seconds. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
whoa.
Frantic start, but we got to do this for 39 more minutes, guys. Let's ease into this thing. But that's a good point there about Chad Baker-Mazara. I mean, tonight, what was he? He was 3 of 12, 1 of 4. He didn't hit a field goal in the last game, so his shot's not there right now. It's just not there for Chad Baker.
No, it's not. But of the 4 shots that he hit, I mean, he has some of the most acrobatic makes. How many times has he hit a 3 and then gotten to, walk to the free throw line? I don't know if that's a stat that's kept up with, but I feel like more than any other player that I see, and he often is hitting the shots after he's getting fouled. Very acrobatic, but like we were talking about earlier, teams try to get under his skin because they've seen how he, has reacted in the past. I think he's gotten his temper and his emotions under control in comparison to last season. But I mean, Bruce has talked about it in press conferences. He personally has a target on his back, and people try to get under his skin to try and get him to react.
Yep. Auburn Big Bob says Auburn taking 80 shots. Well, LSU had 51 is wild. I started with that stat, 80 to 51. They were 8 of 22 from 3. Auburn was 8 of 25, but 24 of 51 from the field is what the field goal percentage ended up being there from LSU. They just didn't get a lot of shots up. Part of that was because of 20 turnovers, 20 less possessions from LSU that Auburn's defense sucked it in, and I got 20 turnovers. Much like they come at you in waves offensively, they are very aggressive defensively, and it really sank LSU tonight.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps them in these games. The past couple of games when they've either gone on cold streaks during the game or just had an off shooting night altogether. It's their defense that keeps them in the game. I don't know if it's updated yet, but before tip-off, they were number 1 in KenPom's adjusted defensive efficiency, and I mean that helps a lot when they are not hitting shots. And the confidence in the guys, though, to keep shooting. That's something that was talked about a lot after the Tennessee game. But I feel like they have the utmost confidence in themselves, the utmost confidence in their teammates. And Bruce said, I mean, that's what good shooters do. They keep shooting. They don't let a miss impact, first off, what they're doing defensively, which is extremely important to Bruce Pearl, and second, their next shot. So that's keeping them in games. And defensively, especially Denver Jones has been playing lockdown defense.
Yeah, and that's what Jeff says. Auburn is going to defend you every night. That is absolutely what Bruce Pearl always pitches there. Um, uh, Taylor Corn is beautiful. So is Jimmy D. Thank you,
Thank
thank you.
you.
We love the young and the bald. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys so much for the love there. Chris says Janai can barely walk at times, but he sure was dancing with his LSU cheerleaders after the game. Let's be specifically correct, Chris. I believe it was the LSU dance team, the Tigerettes, the Tiger Girls, whatever they're called. Um, but he was getting a little. I think he was going a little Macarena there with him for a little bit, and then he busted into a little move and then walked away. Nothing offensive, just a good fun time from Janai Broom there. But he's not 100%. But I'll tell you who is. By the way, you got a nice cafe sound going back there. I like this. It's like
I
yeah, like classic. Back when I was a college student, the radio there was a radio station in town. It was Rock 99, and they would have something cafe at lunch, and it would be the DJ talking, and they'd play songs, and but while the DJ was talking, they'd have fake um, cafe sounds going, like dishes and murmuring in the background, and people cutting stuff and things up, and I was like, being a dumb college student for a while, I was like, oh, they're live at some restaurant. As I got into the business, I realized it was just a fake soundtrack in the back, like the birds at the Masters. And it wasn't really dishes or anything. It was just a fake soundtrack that was going in the back. But I loved it. I listened to it every day while I ate my little sandwich on the yard down there at Montevallo. I was gonna say this about Janai Broom playing and gutting this thing out. It is a quad one win right now for Auburn. They're 12th. That can be adjusted as they go along. But this guy wants to play through this injury. He could have rested with a much bigger game on the road, much tougher game on the road at Ole Miss this weekend. But Stephen Pearl told us this week he wants to be out there. He wanted to play. Even on a snow day, he was trying to get rehab. So he wasn't going to play Saturday, rest tonight, and play again Saturday. He wants to play every damn game.
Yeah, and how much of that do you think has to go into the race for National Player of the Year?
Um, Maybe some, yeah, maybe some. And when you're through with your thought on that, I got a thought about that as well. I don't usually tweet during the game. I'm not. I mean, that just
Oh,
like if
I
I
loved it. I know exactly what you're
yeah
talking about, and I loved it.
yeah I don't usually tweet during the game because it gets old quick, and I mean we send a lot of stuff out at next round that I'll retweet, but I don't. I'm an emotional guy. I don't have any cocktails in my hand tonight, just a little water that I'm sipping.
Okay.
So it's not a bourbon, but Janai's a bigger guy, and I know they officiate bigger guys differently than they do guys on the wing. But sometimes Janai is when he's to the basket or driving the lane or something, people will hang on him a little bit or bang on him a little bit, that if it's a guard, even if it's an Auburn guard, but if it's a guard for any team or a wing player like Cooper Flag, I mean, you're going to get a whistle. And Janai has to play through that and get to the hole. And I just tweeted out tonight, if Cooper Flag had to play through contact, as much contact as Janai Broom did, I don't think he'd be the player of the year. As it's hard to officiate basketball, and it's harder to officiate big men under the rim. And Janai Broom has to, Shaquille O'Neal had to do it. People would hang on his big 7'2" body all the time. But um, I can say it because I'm not an Auburn person. It would look like you're being a homer if you say it. I'll say it. I feel like Janai gets fouled a lot more than the whistle blows, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not by any means getting a Zach Edey whistle.
He is
And
not.
that's earlier, about 50 minutes ago. So at whatever point in the game that was, Brad Law tweeted and said, "Name an elite player that gets fewer whistles than Janai Broom." No, there's not one. And I agree. I agree. He is not getting the whistle that you see these, elite players, elite big men getting the majority of the time. But hey, it is what it is. he lets them know. He lets them know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
He makes it work regardless.
he does.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Um, Go ahead. Go ahead.
but in terms of the National Player of the Year race, after Janai was the front runner, after he got injured, Cooper Flag jumped him, and he has had an incredible season. And I don't know. I mean, it's obviously lingering in the back of Janai's mind. Auburn has started sending some stuff out on Twitter that is a little bit like the start of a campaign for him to win the award. I don't know how much he's thinking about that. Obviously, his goal, as well as every single other player on his team in the conference and the country's goal, is to win a national championship at the end of the day. So he wants to be healthy for that. But I do wonder, you know, sitting wouldn't be helping him get any
No.
closer to winning that, prestigious award.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, championship is a team. And then I really think, oh, they got a thumbs up. Oh, well, I don't know what's going on here, but winning a championship and then I think getting a really good NBA grade
Yeah,
are probably 1A, 1B. And then if the player of the year happens, the player of the year happens. Crangus says, it just doesn't look like I'm watching one of the best offenses in the country most nights, but stats are the stats, I guess. And I would say, and I want your thoughts on that, that it is not always the prettiest, but it is a very efficient offense. What do you think? What do you say?
I agree. And if you go back and listen to probably, every post game that we've done over the past 4 or 5 games, I've said the same thing. I've said it doesn't look like, and I've said the same thing about Alabama at times. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like they're shooting great. And then you look up and they've scored 85, 90 points. So I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't look pretty, but they get the job done.
Um, Forrester says that's one uncomfortable cover at 12 and a half. Well, that's 13, Forrester. I mean, that's all you need. A half's a half, my man. A half's a half. Thank you, mybookie.ag promo code next round. A half's a half there. Aaron says, as an Auburn guy, definitely want Janai to get player of the year, but worried the blue blood Duke is hard to vote against.
I agree.
He's definitely the leader. But Janai and Auburn's the dominant number one team, unanimous again, number one overall seed. By the way, Lenardi saying considerable margin for error as a one seed for Auburn. Now that is a Lenardi saying it, so it is not me saying it last week when I said Auburn could lose 4 games and still be four more games and still be a one seed, maybe even 5 more games and still be a one seed. That's exactly what Lenardi is saying without putting a number on it. I said it last week that
You
Auburn
did.
could lose 4 SEC games, 4 more SEC games, or 5 more SEC games and still be a number one overall or number one seed, not the number one overall seed. And here's Lenardi in today's bracketology saying Auburn has a considerable margin for error as a one seed. That means they can lose a game before you even start thinking about a 2 seed, probably another game. And everyone else would have to win a lot of games. So Auburn's in a really, really good spot. Of course, they want to hold on to the number one overall seed. All right. Chad Baker-Mazara, only 3 assists from a double-double tonight. He gets it done in a lot of different ways. Morgan checking in from the hump. I'm literally the only Bama fan in my entire section. Love it. We'll have a post-game Morgan coming up after Alabama and Mississippi State playing at the hump. 2 top 14 teams playing there. They're off to a neck-and-neck 25-22 start there. Give me one final thought on Auburn's win on the road at LSU, and we'll have plenty of time later in the week on the basketball show to preview the trip to Ole Miss. But I mean, if you want it to be Ole Miss, whatever you want it to be right now, give me a thought.
Miles Kelly, the scout on Miles Kelly, getting him. I think that he has been an incredible addition from the transfer portal. Miles Kelly, he shows
Yeah.
up and incredible pickup.
5 of 10 and 2 of 7 from three tonight. So he missed 5 threes, but 5 of 10 in the game. He ends up with 13. And if you were watching early on, and then another big point in the game, and then back to the Tennessee game, to
Yeah,
your point, he is when Pettiford's not hitting the big shots, Miles
it's
Kelly
Miles.
is. Yeah, so those two guys two new faces really helping Auburn. So Auburn wins it 87-74. If you're here with us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Wherever else you're watching us, thank you so much. We've been blown away by your views and your comments and your participation in the basketball show all year. Another post-game reaction following Mississippi State's hosting of Alabama coming up a little bit later on tonight. Little TL, see you then.
See you then.